Every day, we face moments that test our patience: a harsh comment from a coworker, an unexpected setback, or even just a frustratingly long line at the coffee shop. And yet, how often do we let those moments dictate our mood, shaping our entire day? Marcus Aurelius, the renowned Stoic philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? The idea that our reactions, not the events themselves, hold the key to our peace of mind. In this video, we're diving into why controlling your reactions is such a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and how this timeless principle can help you build resilience and inner calm in today's chaotic world. Stick with us, because by the end, you might just see those daily challenges in a completely new light. How often do we stress over things beyond our control? Think about it. How much time and energy do we spend worrying about the opinions of others, the unpredictable twists of fate, or even the weather? The Stoics believed this tendency to fixate on the uncontrollable was one of the biggest obstacles to inner peace. At the heart of their philosophy lies the famous dichotomy of control, a concept championed by Epictetus in his work, the Enchiridion *. He writes, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." It's a simple yet profound idea. Divide the world into two categories: what you can control and what you cannot. Let's break that down. According to Stoicism, the things we can control are our thoughts, our actions, and our attitudes. These are entirely within our power. On the other hand, things like the behavior of others, external events, or outcomes are outside our control. And here's the key: the Stoics taught that we should focus only on what's within our power and let go of everything else. Why? Because fretting over the uncontrollable is not only futile, it's exhausting and counterproductive. Imagine this scenario: you receive negative feedback at work. Instinctively, you might feel upset or even defensive. You might spend hours replaying the conversation in your mind or trying to interpret the intentions behind it. But ask yourself, what part of this situation is actually within your control? Can you control the fact that the feedback was given, or the perspective of the person who delivered it? No, what you can control is how you choose to respond. You can analyze whether the feedback contains constructive advice and use it as an opportunity to improve. Or if it seems unwarranted, you can calmly let it go, refusing to let it derail your focus or self-worth. This approach isn't about being passive or indifferent. It's about redirecting your energy towards something constructive rather than spiraling into emotional turmoil. By identifying what is and isn't within your control, you free yourself from unnecessary worry and create space for clarity and intentional action. The beauty of this practice is that it applies to every area of life. Whether you're dealing with a difficult relationship, an unexpected setback, or even societal issues, the principle remains the same. Ask, is this within my control? If it is, take thoughtful action. If it isn't, let it go. It's not about ignoring problems, but rather approaching them with a sense of composure and focus. So, the next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, take a moment to pause and reflect on Epictetus's wisdom. Shift your attention to what you can influence, because that's where your true power lies. Have you ever found yourself in the heat of an argument that spiraled out of control over something trivial? Maybe a simple comment from a friend or partner felt like a personal attack, and before you knew it, emotions flared, words were exchanged, and the situation escalated far beyond what either of you intended. Looking back, you might wonder, was the issue really that serious, or did your interpretation of it fan the flames? This is where the Stoic perspective on emotions offers a profound insight. Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher, argued that emotions are not inherent truths, they're judgments we make about the events around us. In other words, feelings like anger, frustration, or anxiety don't arise because of the situations themselves, but because of how we interpret those situations. And here's the kicker: those interpretations are often based on assumptions, misunderstandings, or deeply ingrained habits of thought. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine you're driving to work and someone cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, your heart races, your grip tightens on the wheel, and you're filled with anger. Why is it? Because the act of being cut off is objectively infuriating, not necessarily. The anger stems from the meaning you assign to that action. Maybe you interpret it as a sign of disrespect, thinking, "How dare they? They must think their time is more important than mine." But what if you paused for a moment and considered alternative explanations? Could it be that the other driver was distracted, lost, or rushing to an emergency? By shifting your perspective, the anger loses its grip and you create space for a more measured response. Seneca reminds us that emotions like anger or fear can feel overpowering because we treat them as though they reflect reality, but they don't. They're like mental filters shaped by our interpretations, and when we challenge those interpretations, we reclaim control. This doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring your emotions. That's not the Stoic way. Instead, it's about recognizing that your feelings are a product of your judgments and questioning whether those judgments serve you. Reinterpreting situations involves creating a moment of pause. Instead of reacting impulsively, ask yourself, what am I assuming about this situation? Is there another way to see it? Does this interpretation align with the kind of person I want to be? This practice is at the heart of Stoic emotional mastery. By slowing down and reframing your perspective, you can respond with wisdom rather than react out of impulse. So, what about you? Think back to a recent situation where emotions ran high, a disagreement, a disappointment, or a moment of frustration. How much of your reaction was shaped by your interpretation of the events? Did you make assumptions or judgments that fueled the intensity of your feelings? What might have changed if you had paused and considered a different perspective? The power here lies in realizing that emotions don't control you. You control them by managing the thoughts and judgments that give rise to them. It might not be easy at first. It's a skill that takes practice and self-awareness. But over time, this mindset can transform how you navigate life's challenges, allowing you to approach even the most stressful situations with clarity and calm. And isn't that the kind of emotional resilience we all aspire to? Picture this: you've just received an email at work that feels like a direct attack on your efforts. Frustration bubbles up instantly. You're tempted to fire back a heated reply, defensively justifying yourself or calling out the sender's tone. But have you ever noticed how, in moments like these, reacting right away often leads to regret? Maybe your response comes across harsher than intended or escalates the conflict unnecessarily. It's a classic example of how emotions, when left unchecked, can lead us to act impulsively. This is precisely why the Stoics placed such a strong emphasis on reason as a guiding force in life. For the Stoics, reason wasn't just about intellectual problem solving, it was about clarity, balance, and control. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, frequently reflected on this in Meditations. He urged himself to stay grounded, writing, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, reason is the anchor that keeps us steady when emotions threaten to capsize us. It reminds us that our initial reaction is often fueled by perception, not reality, and that with thoughtful reflection we can choose a better course of action. But how exactly does this work? Think of reason as the internal compass that helps you navigate life's challenges. When emotions like anger, fear, or anxiety surge, they often cloud our judgment, making it harder to see the situation clearly. Reason acts as a counterbalance, giving us the space to step back, assess the facts, and determine the most constructive way forward. Let's go back to that email scenario. Instead of immediately responding in anger, you pause. You take a moment to breathe and consider, am I interpreting this email correctly? Is it possible the sender's tone isn't as harsh as it seems? What's the best way to address the issue without escalating tension? That brief pause can shift the entire dynamic, allowing you to respond with composure and purpose rather than reacting impulsively. The Stoics believed that reason wasn't about suppressing emotions but about directing them. Emotions are not inherently bad, they're natural human responses to the world around us. The key is ensuring they don't overpower us. Reason gives us the power to evaluate our emotional reactions, filtering them through a lens of logic to decide whether they're serving us or pulling us off course. For example, if you're feeling anxious before making a big decision, reason can help you separate what's within your control from what isn't, allowing you to focus on the steps you can take rather than getting lost in worst-case scenarios. So how can we integrate this Stoic principle into our daily lives? A practical starting point is to practice what we might call the pause. Whenever you feel an emotional reaction rising, whether it's anger, frustration, or fear, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and give yourself the space to reflect. Ask yourself, what's really happening here? What am I assuming about this situation? What's the most rational way to respond? By stepping back, you're allowing reason to step forward, guiding your behavior in a way that aligns with your values and long-term goals. Over time, this small habit of pausing and reflecting can become second nature. It can help you navigate difficult conversations, make better decisions, and approach life's challenges with a sense of calm and control. And isn't that what we all strive for? A life where we respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, where we allow reason to guide our steps, no matter what life throws our way. What if nothing in life is inherently bad? It might sound like a radical idea at first, but that's exactly what the Stoics believed. According to Epictetus, external events, things that happen to us, are neither good nor bad on their own. It's only our perception, the meaning we assign to these events, that labels them as positive or negative. In his teachings, Epictetus explained, men are disturbed not by things but by the views they take of them. This insight is incredibly powerful because it shifts the focus inward. It's not the events themselves that control our happiness or peace of mind, but the way we interpret and respond to them. Let's explore what this really means. Imagine you lose your job. It's easy, almost automatic, to view this as a terrible setback, something inherently bad. You might feel anxious, embarrassed, or even panicked about what's next. But from a Stoic perspective, losing a job isn't inherently bad or good. It's just an event. What makes it feel bad is the story we tell ourselves about it. This is the end of my career, I'm a failure, or I'll never recover from this. These judgments are what fuel the distress, not the event itself. What if instead you reframed the situation? What if you saw the job loss as an opportunity, a chance to pivot to something more fulfilling, to learn new skills, or to focus on parts of your life that were previously neglected? By changing the way you think about the event, you change its impact on your emotional state and your future actions. This doesn't mean we should ignore hardships or pretend everything is fine when it's not. The Stoics weren't about suppressing reality. Instead, they encouraged us to observe events for what they truly are, neutral, and then choose how to respond in a way that aligns with our values and long-term goals. Think of it like seeing the world through a clear lens rather than one distorted by fear or pessimism. When you strip away your initial judgments, you create space to respond with reason and intention. Let's bring this idea into a modern context. Consider a situation like missing out on a promotion at work. your initial reaction might be disappointment or frustration, and you might see this as a sign of failure. But when you pause and remind yourself that the event itself is neutral, you can start to reframe it. Could this be an opportunity to reassess your career goals? Could it motivate you to acquire new skills or seek a role that's an even better fit for your strengths? By interpreting the event in a neutral light, you regain control over your emotions and actions rather than letting the situation control you. Now, here's where this idea gets deeply practical. Every time you encounter a challenge or setback, try asking yourself, what story am I telling myself about this situation? Is this story helping me or is it holding me back? Notice how quickly your mind jumps to labeling events as bad or unfair. Then experiment with adopting a different perspective. Ask, how could this situation work in my favor? What can I learn from it? You might be surprised at how much lighter and more empowered you feel when you stop letting events define your mood. So, how about you? Think of a difficulty you faced recently, a tough conversation, an unexpected obstacle, or even a major life change. What if, instead of labeling it as bad, you stripped away the judgment and saw it as just another event in your life? How might that shift change the way you think, feel, and act? This practice isn't easy, especially at first, but over time, it can transform your mindset, allowing you to approach life's ups and downs with a sense of balance and resilience. Because when you see events as neutral, you give yourself the power to shape your own narrative, and that's one of the greatest strengths we can cultivate. Have you ever found yourself scrolling through social media and stumbling across a heated argument in the comments section? Maybe it's about politics, a celebrity's latest controversy, or something as trivial as the right way to prepare coffee. You feel the pull to dive in, to add your opinion, to set the record straight. But what happens when you do? Often, it doesn't resolve anything. Instead, it leaves you feeling drained, frustrated, or even angrier than before. Now imagine a different approach. You pause, recognize the emotions bubbling up, and consciously choose not to engage. You step back, letting the drama unfold without being part of it. How different does that feel? This practice of stepping back is precisely what the Stoics referred to as detachment, or approaching situations with a sense of objectivity. Marcus Aurelius, in his personal reflections, gave a powerful piece of advice. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Central to this is the idea of observing your emotions without letting them take over. Instead of reacting impulsively to every situation, you learn to create a mental space between what happens and how you respond. Think of it like watching a storm from the safety of a window. The lightning and thunder may be fierce, but as long as you're inside, the storm cannot harm you. Your emotions are like that storm. They can be intense, even overwhelming, but they don't have to control you. By practicing detachment, you learn to observe the storm without stepping out into it. It's not about ignoring emotions or becoming indifferent, but rather about acknowledging them without letting them dictate your actions. So why is this practice so valuable? For one, detachment allows you to see situations more clearly. When emotions run high, they often cloud your judgment, making it harder to think rationally or fairly. Detachment creates the space needed for clarity. For example, imagine a coworker makes a critical comment about your work. An emotional reaction might cause you to take it personally, assuming they're trying to undermine you. But if you approach the situation with detachment, you can step back and assess, is their feedback valid? Could there be a misunderstanding? Am I interpreting this through my own insecurities? By viewing the situation objectively, you're more likely to respond thoughtfully rather than react defensively. Another benefit of detachment is the reduction of stress. Life is full of events that can trigger frustration or anxiety: traffic jams, unexpected delays, tense conversations. When you practice detachment, you stop seeing these challenges as personal attacks or crises. Instead, you recognize them as just part of life's ebb and flow. For instance, if you're stuck in traffic, detachment helps you accept the situation for what it is: a neutral event, rather than letting it ruin your mood. It's not that you don't care, it's that you choose not to let external events rob you of your peace. Here's the beauty of this practice: detachment empowers you to respond to life with intention rather than impulse. It helps you break free from the cycle of emotional reactivity and focus on what truly matters. This doesn't mean you'll never feel anger, frustration, or sadness again. Those are natural human emotions. But detachment teaches you to acknowledge them, observe them, and decide whether they deserve your energy. So, here's a question: where in your life might you benefit from stepping back and observing instead of immediately reacting? Maybe it's in handling criticism, navigating family dynamics, or even deciding whether to engage in that next social media debate. The next time you feel drawn into conflict or emotional overwhelm, try pausing for a moment. Observe the situation with curiosity rather than judgment. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? How can I approach this with clarity and calm? By practicing detachment, you'll find that many of the stresses and frustrations you once carried don't feel as heavy anymore. Over time, this mindset builds resilience, helping you navigate life's challenges with a sense of balance and inner strength. After all, as the Stoics remind us, so much of our peace lies in how we choose to see and respond to the world around us. Imagine this: you're rushing to the airport, bags packed, ready for an exciting trip. You arrive at the gate only to see the dreaded words, "flight delayed." Frustration bubbles up immediately. You think about how this delay might ruin your plans, disrupt your schedule, or cost you precious time. Now, let's flip the scenario. What if, earlier that day, you had taken a moment to mentally prepare for the possibility of a delay? What if you had told yourself, there's a chance the flight could be late, but I'll use that time to read, relax, or simply accept it for what it is? How different would your reaction be? This idea of preparing your mind in advance for life's challenges is at the heart of the Stoic practice of premeditating adversity. The Stoics understood that life is full of unpredictability. Plans change, people disappoint us, and obstacles arise when we least expect them. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, advised that we should not only expect adversity but actively prepare for it. He said, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." In other words, by imagining potential setbacks before they happen, we train our minds to approach them with calm and reason, rather than being caught off guard and reacting impulsively. Premeditating adversity is not about pessimism or always expecting the worst. Instead, it's about building mental resilience. Life is unpredictable, and trying to avoid every hardship is impossible. But what is possible is equipping yourself with the mindset to face whatever comes with strength and clarity. When you rehearse potential challenges in your mind, you're less likely to be overwhelmed by emotions when they actually occur. It's like practicing for a big presentation or rehearsing a play. Visualizing the experience ahead of time makes you more confident and prepared when the moment arrives. Let's make this practical. Think about a common frustration you face. Maybe it's a coworker who often interrupts you, your daily commute that's prone to delays, or even disagreements with a loved one. Now take a moment to imagine that situation happening. Picture yourself responding in a way that aligns with the person you want to be: calm, collected, and in control. What does that response look like? Maybe you take a deep breath before speaking, maintain a neutral tone, or remind yourself that the delay or disagreement is outside your control and not worth your peace of mind. Rehearsing this in your mind creates a kind of mental buffer so that when the moment actually occurs, your emotions don't take over, you're already prepared. This practice of premeditation can start small. Take a few minutes each morning to reflect on your day ahead. Are there potential challenges that could arise, a difficult conversation, a stressful deadline? By acknowledging these in advance and picturing yourself responding calmly, you're not only reducing the likelihood of being thrown off balance, but you're also strengthening your ability to stay composed under pressure. Over time, this mindset becomes second nature, helping you navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease. So, here's a reflective exercise for you to try. Think about a situation that typically frustrates or stresses you out. Close your eyes and imagine it happening, but instead of focusing on the frustration, picture yourself handling it with grace and patience. How would that feel? How would that small shift change the outcome of your day? Practicing this regularly may not make the challenges disappear, but it will transform how you face them. By training your mind through premeditation, you're adopting one of the Stoics' most powerful tools for building resilience. You're not just reacting to life, you're preparing for it calmly and intentionally. And when adversity does strike, you'll find yourself standing steady, ready to meet it with a clear mind and a composed spirit. Isn't that a skill worth cultivating? Imagine standing by the edge of a river. The water rushes by in a steady current, following its natural course. Now picture yourself stepping in and trying to swim upstream, fighting against that powerful flow. It's exhausting, isn't it? Every stroke feels futile as the current pushes back harder and harder. But now imagine a different approach, letting go of the struggle and allowing the river to carry you downstream. By working with the current instead of against it, your movements become effortless, your energy conserved, and you find yourself in sync with the flow of the water. This simple image of a river perfectly captures one of the core principles of Stoicism, living in alignment with nature. For the Stoics, nature wasn't only about the environment or the physical world. It represented the larger natural order of the universe, the reality of how things unfold. Marcus Aurelius beautifully reflects on this idea in his Meditations, urging us to accept life's events as part of the natural flow. He writes, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny for what could more aptly fit your needs." In other words, everything that happens, both the pleasant and the challenging, is part of the greater design of life. And when we align ourselves with this natural order rather than resisting it, life becomes far less turbulent. Let's explore this a bit further. Resistance to the natural flow of life often arises when we cling too tightly to how we think things should be. Maybe you believe you deserve a promotion at work, and when it doesn't happen, frustration takes over. Or perhaps you're caught up in a sudden change of plans that disrupts your carefully organized schedule, leading to stress and irritation. These reactions stem from an internal resistance to reality, a refusal to accept life as it unfolds. It's like swimming against the current. The harder we fight, the more struggle we create for ourselves. The Stoics teach that instead of resisting, we should strive to flow with life. This doesn't mean passive resignation or giving up on aspirations. It means recognizing what is outside our control and adapting to it gracefully. Marcus Aurelius encourages us to see each moment as part of the natural order, not as an obstacle but as something designed to fit into the greater whole. By understanding this, we can approach life's surprises not with overreaction or frustration, but with acceptance and calm. For example, let's say you miss an important train that will make you late for a meeting. You could let anger and anxiety take over, replaying the situation in your mind and blaming yourself for not leaving earlier. Or you could pause and remind yourself that this moment too is a part of the natural flow of life. Missing the train doesn't have to define your day. You can use that time to reflect, prepare, or simply practice patience. This shift in perspective transforms the experience from one of resistance to one of acceptance. Now think about areas in your own life where you might be fighting the current. Is there a situation you're holding on to, wishing it were different? Maybe a relationship that's changing in ways you can't control, or a career path that hasn't unfolded quite the way you envisioned. Ask yourself, am I resisting reality or am I adapting to it? How might flowing with the situation rather than against it ease my emotional burden? By aligning ourselves with life's natural flow, we reduce unnecessary stress and overreaction. Like the river, life will continue moving forward regardless of our resistance. The question is whether we choose to struggle against that current or allow it to guide us toward peace and clarity. This mindset doesn't just help us weather life's challenges, it transforms how we respond to them, teaching us to trust the order of the universe and find ease in the process. So the next time you feel resistance building, take a moment to pause and reflect. How can I flow with rather than fight the current of life? Have you ever been in a situation where someone's bad mood seemed to ripple out and affect everyone around them? Think about a team meeting where one person's frustration escalated, causing tension and discomfort for the entire group. Or maybe it was a family dinner where an argument between two people changed the atmosphere, leaving everyone else quiet and uneasy. These moments remind us of a simple truth: our reactions don't exist in a vacuum. They have a profound impact not only on ourselves but also on the people around us. The Stoics understood this deeply and spoke about the importance of maintaining harmony in our relationships through self-control. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, often wrote about the idea of interconnectedness, the ways in which our actions and emotions influence the greater whole. In his letters, he emphasized that tempering our reactions isn't just about achieving inner peace. It's also about fostering patience, understanding, and balance in our relationships. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." This philosophy extends to how we respond to others, especially in moments of conflict or emotional intensity. A measured reaction, rooted in kindness and reason, has the power to de-escalate tension, repair misunderstandings, and create a ripple effect of calm. Let's take a closer look at this through a relatable example. Picture a parent coming home from a difficult day at work. They're stressed, tired, and a little on edge. Without realizing it, they snap at their child over something small, maybe the toys left on the floor or a spilled drink. In that instant, their negative reaction not only affects their own mental state, but also leaves the child upset, perhaps even causing the rest of the family to feel uneasy. Now imagine if that same parent paused for a moment before reacting. Instead of snapping, they take a deep breath and calmly address the mess. That small act of restraint shifts the entire dynamic, preserving harmony and maybe even setting an example of patience for the child to learn from. This doesn't mean we have to suppress our emotions or pretend we're unaffected by challenges. The Stoics weren't about bottling things up. Instead, they taught us to be mindful of how we express our emotions and to recognize the influence of our actions on others. By pausing and choosing a thoughtful response, we can prevent our anger, frustration, or stress from spreading to those around us. And as we do, we create a more supportive, understanding environment, whether that's at home, at work, or in our communities. So how do we start applying this practice in our daily lives? Begin by reflecting on how your reactions influence the people closest to you. Have you ever noticed how your mood can affect your family, friends, or co-workers? When you're calm and composed, does it help create a more positive atmosphere? Conversely, when you've reacted impulsively, how did it impact the people around you? These are important questions to consider because they remind us of the power we hold in shaping not just our own experience, but the experiences of those we interact with. The next time you find yourself in a tense situation, whether it's a disagreement, a moment of frustration, or even just a stressful day, pause for a moment. Think about the potential ripple effect of your response. Ask yourself, am I contributing to harmony, or am I allowing my emotions to disrupt it? By taking this moment to reflect, you can choose a response that's not only aligned with the Stoic principle of self-control, but also fosters patience, understanding, and connection with those around you. This practice might feel challenging at first, especially in moments when emotions run high. But over time, it becomes a habit, a way of approaching life that strengthens your relationships and helps you become a steady, positive force in the lives of others. Because ultimately, as the Stoics teach us, controlling our reactions isn't just about self-mastery. It's about contributing to a greater sense of peace and balance in the world. So, how might your interactions change if you approach them with this mindset? How might your measured responses inspire the people around you to do the same? Imagine being born into slavery, living your early years without freedom, and then later suffering a crippling injury that leaves you physically impaired. For many, such a life would seem unbearable, an endless series of injustices that could provoke bitterness, anger, or despair. But for Epictetus, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, these adversities became the foundation of his wisdom. Despite his circumstances, Epictetus chose to focus not on his external hardships but on what he could control: his mind, his attitudes, and his reactions. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." His life is a testament to the power of resilience, a resilience born from mastering one's reactions. So, what can we learn from this? Adversity is an inevitable part of life. Whether it's losing a job, facing rejection, dealing with a health crisis, or experiencing the loss of a loved one, challenges come to us all. While we cannot always control these external events, we can control how we respond to them, and in those responses lies the foundation of resilience. When adversity strikes, our first reaction is often emotional fear, frustration, sadness, even anger. These feelings are natural, but if left unchecked, they can cloud our judgment and keep us stuck in the problem rather than moving toward a solution. The Stoics remind us that resilience isn't about suppressing these emotions, but about consciously guiding our energy toward what can actually help us move forward. This shift in focus from dwelling on the problem to seeking a solution is what allows us to face hardship with strength and composure. Let's make this idea practical. Imagine experiencing a sudden financial setback, like losing a significant portion of your income. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, replaying the moment over and over in your mind, asking questions like, "Why me? How could this happen?" While understandable, this kind of reaction doesn't solve the issue, it prolongs the feeling of helplessness. Now consider approaching the situation through a Stoic lens. The initial loss has already occurred. The event itself is now beyond your control. What remains within your control is how you respond. Instead of sinking into panic or resentment, you could start by calmly assessing the situation. You might create a new budget, explore additional income opportunities, or seek support from others. By shifting your focus to actionable steps, you take back your power, building resilience in the process. Another relatable example might be rejection, whether it's a romantic rejection, a denied promotion at work, or even a friend letting you down. The sting of rejection can often lead to self-doubt or bitterness. But here again, the Stoics would urge us to step back and reflect. Is this rejection the end of the road, or could it be an opportunity to learn, grow, and redirect your energy towards something better? Managing your reaction allows you to focus on what you can learn from the experience, rather than letting it define your self-worth. Resilience also involves understanding that adversity is an inevitable part of life and not a sign that something has gone wrong. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." When you accept that challenges are a natural part of existence, they lose their power to shock or overwhelm you. Instead, you begin to see them as opportunities to practice courage, patience, and perseverance. Now, think back to a time in your own life when you overcame a significant challenge. Maybe it was working through a difficult personal loss, navigating a career setback, or enduring a tough period in your relationships. What helped you get through it? Did staying calm and focused allow you to find solutions even when things felt uncertain? Reflecting on these moments can remind us of the strength we already possess and how managing your reactions can turn even the most difficult experiences into moments of growth. Resilience doesn't mean avoiding hardship. It means facing it with grace and determination. And the secret lies in mastering your reactions. As the Stoics teach us, adversity is not what defines us, it's how we choose to respond. So the next time life tests you, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what part of this can I control and how can I approach it with strength? This perspective doesn't just help you endure, it helps you thrive. How often do we react to something in the heat of the moment, only to look back later and wish we'd handled it differently? It's a scenario we can all relate to: snapping at a loved one during a stressful day, sending an overly defensive email at work, or letting frustration get the better of us in a minor disagreement. These unconscious reactions often feel automatic, as if they're outside of our control. But here's the truth, they're not. The Stoics believe that a key step toward managing our reactions is developing self-awareness, the ability to observe our thoughts and feelings in real time and recognize how they influence our choices. Self-awareness is like shining a light on your inner world. It helps you notice the thoughts and emotions that drive your behavior, giving you the power to pause, reflect, and choose a better response. Without it, we operate on autopilot, reacting out of habit rather than intention. The Stoics understood this deeply and placed great emphasis on cultivating self-awareness as a foundation for mastery over one's reactions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, practiced this principle daily. His personal journal, now known as *Meditations*, was a tool for self-examination. Through his writings, Marcus reflected on his actions, his mindset, and the challenges he faced, always aiming to refine his character and align his behavior with his values. He would ask himself hard questions such as, did I act in accordance with reason today? Or did I let anger or pride dictate my decisions? This habit of daily reflection wasn't just a philosophical exercise. It was a practical way to stay grounded and mindful in the chaos of life. Think about how this practice could apply to your own life. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on your emotional responses. Ask yourself, was there a moment today where I reacted impulsively? What triggered that reaction? And most importantly, how might I handle a similar situation differently next time? You can write these reflections down in a journal or simply take a mental inventory. The act of analyzing your responses helps you become more aware of your emotional triggers and gives you the tools to respond more thoughtfully in the future. For example, maybe you notice a pattern. Perhaps you tend to lose patience when plans don't go the way you expect. In identifying this, you can start to prepare for these moments. The next time something doesn't go as planned, you're more likely to catch yourself before reacting, reminding yourself that the Stoic way is to accept what's outside your control and focus on what you can influence instead. Self-awareness also helps us understand the stories we tell ourselves about certain situations. Imagine you're stuck in traffic and someone cut you off. Without self-awareness, you might immediately assume that driver is disrespectful and reckless and let anger take over. But with awareness, you can pause and notice your thought process. You might realize, my anger comes from the assumption that they did this on purpose. but I don't actually know their intent. This pause allows you to shift your perspective and keep your emotions in check. To help you start building this habit, here's a quick exercise. Think about a recent situation where you reacted emotionally, maybe frustration, anger, or even defensiveness. Reflect on it for a moment. How did you feel in that moment, and why? Did your reaction align with the person you want to be? What might you have done differently with more awareness? These questions aren't about self-criticism, they're about growth. The more you practice observing and reflecting on your emotional responses, the more aware you become, and the less likely you are to be swept away by them in the future. Building self-awareness isn't an overnight process, it's a daily practice. But with time, it becomes a powerful tool for managing your reactions and living with greater intention. As Marcus Aurelius demonstrated, it's not about aiming for perfection, but about showing up every day with a willingness to learn, reflect, and improve. So, how might your life change if you made self-awareness a daily priority? Throughout this journey into Stoic philosophy, one key truth has stood out. While we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. This simple yet profound principle is the foundation of a calmer, more intentional life. Whether it's by focusing on what's truly within our control, reframing our perception of challenges, or practicing self-awareness to guide our reactions, the Stoics teach us that true strength lies in mastering our own minds. By learning to control our reactions, we open the door to greater clarity and peace. Instead of being swept away by anger, frustration, or fear, we gain the ability to pause, reflect, and choose responses that align with our values. This not only helps us navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace, but also builds resilience, allowing us to grow stronger with each setback. And as we've explored, this mindset doesn't just benefit us, it positively impacts the people around us, fostering harmony and understanding in our relationships. Remember, Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or avoiding hardship. It's about embracing life as it is, including its uncertainties and difficulties, and choosing to respond in ways that lead to growth rather than suffering. As Epictetus wisely reminds us, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. This insight gives us the ultimate power, not over the external world, but over ourselves, which is where true peace begins. So, how can you begin applying this philosophy in your own life? Start small. Choose one principle from today's discussion, perhaps the dichotomy of control, reframing your perception, or practicing self-awareness, and try it out for just one day. Observe how it influences your mood, your interactions, and your sense of well-being. Reflect on how choosing your responses rather than reacting automatically might shape your perspective on the challenges you face. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you most from this discussion? How do you plan to apply Stoic principles in your daily life? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your reflections might just inspire someone else on their own journey. And if you found value in this exploration of Stoicism, consider giving this video a like and subscribing for more insights into living a thoughtful, intentional life. As you go about your day, remember that while life will always throw its share of challenges your way, your response is entirely up to you. That's where your power lies. By mastering your reactions, you're not just surviving, you're thriving, one thoughtful choice at a time.